Welcome to the Presence Podcast. My name is Chris, and this is my wife, Susie. And together we're pastors at a brand new church, Presence Church, launching in the fall of 2025.
We're so excited to share with you the stories from our core group here at Presence Church over the next coming weeks.
I hope that you enjoy these conversations, and I hope that their stories resonate with you in the same way that they've resonated with us so much. Enjoy these conversations. Well, Jesus, thank you again for family. Thank you for conversation. Thank you for the stories that tie and bond our hearts together. Thank you for your goodness toward us and the way that you have designed us to live our lives with human connection and how much that matters. Thank you for the vulnerability that we get to share with one another. And may our stories draw people just one step closer to you. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And well, thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to just get it right out in the open. You probably can't tell because we're sitting around the table, but based on our height resemblance, we are mother and son. And and so we're getting to have all these great conversations with people that are joining us on our church planting journey as we start Presence Church. And just super excited to get to share some of your story. One of the things that has been powerful for us along the way has been that there are people in this community that's beginning with a small group and is growing as we go forward. There are people that are young, and we've got little kids, right? Mm-hmm. We've got people in their teens, in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, and beyond.
I helped him out there.
Thank you. Thank you for the save. Yeah, you kept me out of trouble there. And I think that your story is going to resonate with some people that our story may not, and vice versa. So super meaningful for us that you're willing to join us and share some of your story. So love to hear just your journey of faith throughout your life.
Well, as you know, I was raised Catholic. Went to Catholic schools for 13 years.
Like back in the day when they would actually hit you on the fingers with a ruler,
absolutely.
Catholic, right?
Absolutely.
The nuns and all.
Oh yeah, definitely. You got sent to the office, you better be prepared to get a paddling.
Quite honestly, we could use bringing some of that back, I think. As a parent of 4, let me tell you.
Yeah. Back in the day, I remember the Latin Mass. That's how far back it goes.
Mm-hmm.
When I got out of high school, I married your dad, who was not a Catholic. Went to North Carolina to visit his family and ended up staying there for 2 years. While we were there...
Hold on, you went to visit?
We went to visit.
And then you just never left for 2 years?
Exactly.
I never heard that part of it. There's going to be so much new stuff that comes out in this conversation.
We were supposed to go to visit for 3 months, and then we were supposed to come back.
Got it.
And we ended up staying for 2 years. And as you know, your sister was born there.
Yeah.
But while we were there, North Carolina is very different than California. Here, there's a Catholic church on every corner. Mm-hmm. North Carolina, that is not the case. There's very few Catholic churches.
Baptist churches everywhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we had a Baptist church that was just down the street, within walking distance. And your uncle, Dewey, was a deacon at that church. And so I started going there. At the time, my thought was, better Baptist than no church at all, right? So I started going there, and that was where I converted to Southern Baptist, is what that church was, Southern Baptist.
Okay.
And was baptized there. It was Lakeland Baptist Church. I don't know if it's still there. And then we decided to come back. So we came back to California. And here, of course, it's Catholic church on every corner. Trying to find a Baptist church is a whole other story.
And particularly because when you came back, you landed in the East Bay, not on the peninsula, San Francisco area, right? Where San Francisco is very Catholic.
We were in San Francisco for 2 years
Okay.
before we came to the East Bay. When we did go to the East Bay, there was a little missionary Baptist church right down the street from us. So I started going there. Had to be baptized again because, of course, I'd been baptized Catholic and Southern Baptist, but not missionary Baptist.
A theological nuance there.
Exactly,
for that.
exactly. So I had to be baptized again. And when we moved down to San Jose, in the meantime, we had really fallen away from church for years. And as you know, as you were growing up, we occasionally went to church, but it wasn't something that we really were committed to.
Yeah, a lot of Christmases and Easters.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Christmases and Easters. But even during that time, I was raising 4 children, even after your dad left, and there was as a single mom raising 4 children, from ages 5 to 14. Even though I had fallen away from church, I had not lost my faith. And God got me through a lot. There was a lot in life in general that we all have to get through, sickness with our children and, bills and all of those things. There were many times that I really didn't know what I was going to do, but somehow, some way, God always made a way to make sure that everything got taken care of. Everything that we needed was there.
Mm-hmm.
Bills got paid, and
So you were experiencing his peace.
Exactly.
Even though you weren't in a physical church building, like you were still
Right.
crying out to God in your struggle and in your pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was still right there with you.
Yeah, and he was. When we moved to San Jose, we then discovered another Baptist church, Missionary Baptist, here in San Jose, and we went to that church, as you know, for you. In fact, you started going there before I did, with your sister.
Yep.
And then there was a change, and we moved from that church. We started going to another church, another Baptist church in Sunnyvale.
So let me interject a couple things here. So that church in San Jose will always be very near and dear to my heart for a number of reasons. And it's also very meaningful to us because we were married in that church, which was a very special thing for me personally, to be married on that same altar where I knelt and prayed years before and asked Jesus to save me. I became a follower of Jesus, and I stood up from praying with the pastor, and I had no idea what it meant, but I looked at him and I thought, that's what I want to do what this guy does for a living. Like, this is what I want to give my life to. And it took almost 3 decades for that really to become a professional reality. There was a lot of volunteer stuff in the meantime, but that place will always have a very special place in my heart, and those people. And something that's come out a lot in these conversations is the value of friendship and relationship and community. And when my sister invited me to go to Vacation Bible School at this church, I didn't know what it was all about. I knew it was a religious thing, but I didn't really understand it. What I did know was I felt lonely, and they welcomed me. I felt I was in a season of life, where I didn't feel like I had a lot of relationship, but when I went there, they became friends, and they were kind to me. They wanted me to be around, And that was the thing that I think most led me to Jesus, was feeling loved. And there's something really unique that happens, and our kids have experienced this, that when you get into your teenage years, your parents' influence lessens, and the influence of other adults increases. And so there were other adults, healthy adults there, that really spoke into my life, and that level of community and connection and personal investment in me was very formational, foundational in my life. And then God's providence, I'll forever be grateful that he, orchestrated that change that you referenced that sent me to Sunnyvale, because I met somebody pretty special at that new church that I went to.
Who would that be?
I'm not sure, but she was super hot, and I had to meet her.
She is still.
And she is still super hot. I met the best girl in the world there, and I got her to fall in love with me. I don't know how I pulled it off. So definitely, you never know what's around the corner. Jesus can pull off the crazy things, even getting somebody like you to fall in love with somebody like me. And so we're in this new context in this church in Sunnyvale, and you served there faithfully for a really long time.
25 years.
Yeah. And you were still there when we had made the decision that we felt God was calling us to something else. I don't even remember what year that was.
I think it was 2013, 2012, 2013.
Yeah, it might have been sooner than that.
Yeah.
But I remember how hard it was, because we had always gone to church, in the same place. And why don't you share a little bit about that journey? Because I know for me, it's hard when you go to church and your family is in that church and you do life together in this faith journey. And when that season comes to an end for whatever reason, even though God's calling you into this next phase, one, it's hard because you're leaving behind what you've always known. And then it's also hard because you're leaving behind family and knowing that God wants you to do this. But from your perspective, how we leave and cleave, and you didn't want to just follow us because we're family. You had to do what was best for you and what God was asking you to do. And for you, that was to stay.
Yeah. I really felt it was really hard. It was really hard going back and you guys not being there. Especially missing the kids, during services and whatnot. But I really felt that God was saying, no, it's not time to leave Unity, you stay. And I did stay for quite a while after you guys left. By the time I left there, you were at Echo.
But you didn't come at the beginning stages of
No,
Echo. It was
no.
even years later.
Yeah.
Even.
It wasn't until, a year and a half ago?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty recently.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how you discerned that transition from, just changing churches. A lot of what we've talked about along our journey has been the ways that God has spoken to us, that he has guided our steps. And often, it's, I think sometimes in life, we feel like any change that we make, whether it's a change in jobs or it's a change in cities that we live in or a change in churches that we attend, that any change is a negative. It must be spurred on by some kind of a negative experience or something. And I know that for us, it wasn't that. And I don't, my recollection of your discerning that was nothing negative, but it was really just hearing God speak to your heart and redirect you. Can you tell a little bit about that story?
Absolutely. I had seen a lot in Echo that appealed to me. There's a lot of work being done there, a lot of outreach and community and so forth. So I found Echo very appealing, and I tried several times to get involved there, and it just never worked. It just didn't work out. And it was Mother's Day Sunday, and I had decided I was going to go to church with you guys because it was Mother's Day. I wanted to be with family. And I was laying in bed in the morning, and I was praying, and all of a sudden, that little whisper in the back of my brain said, "It's time." And I said, Time for what? And it said Echo. So it was time for me to make that transition from that little Baptist church over to Echo. And it was an amazing move. It was a very easy transition. The fact that I was the pastor's mother kind of helped a little bit. You know, that helped some.
Yeah,
But
at
it was
the time we were campus pastors at our Fremont location.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And very, you know, for folks that don't know, very different church cultures, right?
Yes.
Neither one good or bad at all, but just very different. I think there's something beautiful about the way Jesus is building his church, in that there are these different expressions of it. And, you know, some people prefer something that is, you know, maybe more intimate than another. And, you know, just various expressions of the church, which even leads to what he's calling all of us to do with Presence Church, is another expression. And I think that's just a really beautiful way to view it, right? That you've made this shift, and when you sort of tried it out to explore on your own, it just didn't it didn't work.
No, it
But-
wasn't time.
Yeah, but when God said it's time, something clicked into place for you, and it did work.
And what I respect so much about you is, like, yes, we love our kids, and you have always supported us. Like, whatever we have felt God's calling us to, even if it's been halfway across the country, you know, whatever, you support us. And what I respect so much about you is the fact that you didn't just follow us. Like, you waited until God released you. And even in this journey of us launching this church and what that looks like, as you come with us, you just were getting established in Echo and involved in the seniors group and all these wonderful things that have stemmed out of having community in a larger church for you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how making this decision, like, how was God working in your heart? And
I think I had been hoping for a church in South San Jose. The Fremont commute's a bit much sometimes when you're making it 3 times a week. But when you guys came and told me about your plan, it just was automatic. It was like the Lord just said, this is what you've been waiting for.
different than the last time.
Yeah, very different. It's time. You know, this is the next step.
Yeah, I think I was. It's a weird way to say it. I'm just going to say it. I was very proud of you when you did come to Fremont in that season. You saw a need. Right. Now, by and large, Echo is a multi-generational church, but definitely does skew more toward, younger folks. But you saw a need for deeper community and connection for people in your age group. That really wasn't happening.
No,
And
it wasn't.
Not only did you see it, but you heard it from others. And then something clicked. And you just decided, what's the old kids movie? There was an old kids, was it Robots? Where the big inventor guy in the show, Mr. Bigweld, golly, we might be violating all kinds of copyright things. I don't know, but Mr. Bigweld, his motto was see a need, fill a need.
Feel the need.
And that's always funny from some random kids movie. It's always stuck with me. When you see a need, you fill a need. And I've really felt like you did that, where most of the people would just say, I wish we had more community for retired people. And you said, the heck with it. Let's build a community of retired people. And I always just really appreciated the way you saw a need and you jumped in and you found partnership and friends to come along with you. And you guys did the hard work of building community. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for somebody that's, I think the polite way to say it, is in the fourth quarter of life?
The fourth quarter. the final run. Um, yeah, it was like you say, Echo is multi-generational, but does tend to be mostly geared towards the younger families. And I did feel, I felt at home at Fremont. I didn't feel like I was too old to be there or anything like that. I felt comfortable there. But at the same time, I felt that there were a lot of people in my age group who were attending church. They loved Echo, but there was no community. We didn't know each other. We had no way, because the church is large. Aside from being in the groups together, you really didn't have a lot of communication. We might see each other and say hello on Sunday morning, but that was about it. And I really felt like we needed to have some type of community, some way of getting together and getting to know each other. And so I partnered with Cindy, and we decided it would be a Bible study. We invited people to come in to just to come to a meet and greet on a Sunday after church. We decided that we would say people who were 60 and over. And so we had I think maybe a dozen people who came to the meet and greet and signed up. Since then, we've had many more people added to our list. We have, on an average of our Bible study, we now have anywhere from 12 to 18 people in attendance.
That's great.
We've been doing this for just a little over a year, and really have formed a good community. We've supported each other through deaths in the family, injuries, illness. It's just been really, really nice to have the community of people our own age, because our problems or issues are different than yours are.
Yeah.
Than the teenagers and the young dating and the engaged. Our problems are very different than yours. We've been through that phase of life, and we're into a different phase now.
Yeah.
And it's really important to be able to have that community.
Yeah.
Well, you guys didn't just stop there. Like, you found that community, but then you also wanted to share, like, we still have things to give. Like, there's still life left in me, and in that group that you guys have formed, you guys give back, you serve, you have said, I have a purpose that God has called me to, and just because I'm in the fourth quarter doesn't mean I need to sit on the sidelines.
Yep.
So what has that meant to you? What has that looked like to you, that you can not only inspire others to do that, but do it yourself?
It's been really important to me to be able to serve. The other church that I was at before I came to Echo was a smaller church, and there really wasn't a lot of opportunity there to serve. But at Echo, there's opportunity for everyone, regardless of your abilities. I'm no help when it comes to setting up tables and those kinds of things.
Getting things off the top shelf.
I can move. Nice.
I had them for you. Don't worry.
Nice. I can move one chair at a time. That's about it.
Yeah.
But I can stand at the door and greet people as they come in. I can hand people whatever handouts we have. I can go in on Thursdays and prep the church, get everything ready, make sure everything's neat and ready for people when they come in on Sunday, put out the communion, and those types of things, prepare for baptisms, and and that it's really been important to me to be able to do that.
There's another, I think, really critical aspect to the Sage generation, which, is not, we have millennials and Gen Xers. It's the Sage generation is not the name of a specific generation, but rather a season of life where you're older. And I think back, there's an old movie. It was not a good movie, but there's a scene. It's one of these where there's kind of like a post-apocalyptic militia, and there are people getting together to try to fight for their lives, And so the main character in the movie is raising this militia, and this really like old guy walks over with a cane or crutches or something, and he goes, "I can help." And the general guy's like, "What can you do? What how can we use you?" He goes, "'Cause I know stuff." You know, and he was an old war vet, and he knew all the strategies and tactics. He had experience that brought knowledge and wisdom to his life. And I think that's so true of your generation, you know, where you are, is that you have a perspective that was formed by a few years on the planet,
Life experience.
life
Quite a few.
experience. You've lived in multiple parts of the country. You have made a life as a single mom in one of the maybe top 2 or 3 most expensive places to live. You've overcome a lot in your life, and I know that I remember as a kid thinking in certain moments of my life that this feels really difficult. And I didn't mean that for me. Like, I looked at you and I thought, this moment, seeing you at the table with a pile of bills trying to figure it out, felt like a lot. It felt like it was dark. It was difficult. If you could say 1 or 2 things to that young single mom out there, what would you say?
I would say hang in there, keep the faith. God will get you through it, and just be there for your kids.
That's good.